I'm going to go through the bones of the dog using this skeleton here. So these are the basic bones that you're going to need to learn for your level 3. And we're going to start at the front of the dog. So we've got the skull. A good area and a landmark on the skull is the occipital bone. So this is a big spur of a bone that sits on the back of the skull here. It's a really good landmark for placing points on the head, so it's always nice to know where that is. You'll find on some breeds that's far more prominent than others. So anywhere where there's a spur on the bones, so we've got a spur here on the occiput and we've got another spur here, means that there's a huge area of muscle attachment. So if we've got a dog with a big head, something like a bulldog, then that spur is really prominent, or something like a basset, so you'll often find that that's more prominent. So it's a really good way of knowing sort of how heavy the dog is and that sort of thing, just literally by that spur there. So we've got the skull. Another area that we like to know on the skull, let me just take his head off, is what we term as the zygote planes. So these are the two planes here, and again they're really good landmarks for us placing points on the dog, whether it be trying to get our eyebrows straight or anything like that. So we're going to start at the front. We've got our dentition, we've got our occiput, and we've got these lovely zygote planes coming into our spine and our rib cage. With the spine and the vertebrae, we don't really need to know the name of all these vertebrae apart from the first two. So the first two are what we term as the atlas and the axis. Nice and easy to remember. They're the yes bone, which means the dog's head can do that, and they're the no bone, which means the dog's head can do that. So they literally fit into each other. One's like a butterfly shape and the other one's got a peg that just sits inside to allow all that rotation. So just remembering those two, you don't need to worry about too much about the others. Then we've got our lovely shoulder blade here, coming into our humerus, our radius at the front and the ulnar at the back. Now I always used to find this quite hard to remember these, but I have a little rhyme. I think, how are you? How are you? And then that's my humerus, my radius, my ulnar. Coming into my pastern joint here. So the pastern joint, exactly the same as our wrist. If I was a dog, I'd be up on my toes like that. So this will be my wrist. Coming into the bones of the feet. There's over 100 bones in the dog's feet, so it's quite an intricate little area. Another area to worry about slightly is our elbow joint, probably the most complicated joint on the dog. So again, some dogs don't like that area being manipulated, so it needs to be well supported. Then we've got our rib cage. Okay, we've got our ribs. There is a floating rib on a dog, and we generally use the last rib as a lot of guidelines for placing patterns on dogs again. You probably won't feel the floating rib, but you will feel just the rib before that, so that's good enough. Coming into our femur, which is our really lovely big long bone, our fibia and our tibia. So again, going on from my little rhyme, how are you? Fine, thanks. So femur, fibia, tibia. So kind of an easy way to remember if you get them a bit muddled up. Again, this is our hock joint. This is our rear pastern. So again, that's a bit like our ankle. If we were a dog, this would be our ankle. So that would be right up, we'd be on tippy toes, which is why dogs have an awful lot of speed. And then again, into the bones of our feet. We've got our lovely pelvic girdle here, and then we've got our tail. Always remember that your tail is an extension of the spine. So when you're manipulating that tail to either do things around the anal area or to trim the tail, just always remember that anything we do to a tail has a direct impact on the dog's spine. So it's literally an extension of the spine. So that's our main bones of the dog's body. So we're just going to do a quick recap. Skull, we've got our atlas and our axis, we've got our shoulder blade here with our humerus, our radius and our ulnar, coming into our front pastern and our feet. We've got our spine, our rib cage, our lovely big pelvic girdle here, into our femur, nice big long bone, fibia, tibia, our rear pastern, and again into the bones of the feet. The bones of the feet are our tarsals, our metatarsals, and our phalanges. So the phalanges are the ones right at the end, and you can see again when we move our fingers exactly the same setup as it is on the dog.